Hey people, how are you today? I am Jules Thought or allegedly innocent or whoever I am. Today is Thursday, November 17th, 2023. We are on countdown to Turkey Day. 1 week and it will be Thanksgiving. So of course, you don't have to wait for one day out of the year to be thankful. In fact, there is good research that shows that people that are aware and they're mindful of their circumstances and they take accountability or inventory of those things for which they are grateful, they do seem to overall have a higher quality of living. So, thankful or Thanksgiving Day can be next Thursday or it can start today. So there you have it. All right, so I am continuing this post-mortem, if you will, of the train wreck formerly known as the Adelson clan or Adelson clan. So there is, okay, so I want to address today enmeshment. If you watched my previous video talking about the enmeshed relationship between Charlie Adelson and his mother, there's two things to pay attention to here. And I know we have a lot of like LPCs and social workers and such that are a member of our community. So some of them, specialize in family dynamics and attachment theory. And so they are well versed in this whole enmeshment theory. But there's two kind of important takeaways, I think, to focus on when trying to make the leap from just a theoretical orientation coming out of a book, putting into practice in terms of a research protocol, or clinically trying to apply that type of knowledge to a setting, to a real situation that you're dealing with. So this conversation really is more of kind of like a theoretical discussion because I don't know anyone in the Adelson or Markel tragedy. The nightmarish crimes, I know none of them. I've had no contact with them, nothing. This is all theoretically informed discussion. When you're considering enmeshment and the power that it can exert on individuals within a family structure, you hear these conversations. I know it's loud. 1 minute. 1 minute. 1 minute. Okay. When you hear these conversations, you kind of walk away with this thought of this is an enmeshed family. And in fact, a lot of the lingo, a lot of the discussions and verbalizations about enmeshment is kind of, you get this impression that you're talking about like a family, a global level, right? And there is measured transgenerational influences that can predispose or inform enmeshed behaviors that would promote enmeshment in the new family. So I'm not saying that you can't have an enmeshed family. I certainly think you can. But the second part to focus on is where's the real enmeshment coming from? Okay, so one thing that a lot of people don't consider is that it is the parent that is the catalyst for this very unhealthy dynamic. It is a parent that generally, according to research, has an anxious attachment style or anxious avoidant. The children, or one of 5 children, who, however many kids are in the family, there doesn't necessarily have to be an enmeshed structure with all of the children. It can be an enmeshed situation between a parent and a child. A lot of these families that you look at and you say, well, this is an enmeshed family, they will tell you about the black sheep of the family. But in truth, very often the black sheep of the family is the one who inherently recognized, this is unhealthy, this is intolerable, I cannot continue to be handled and managed in this unhealthy way. And, I'm going to hit the road. And maybe that happens during that kind of adolescent angst, and the kid sort of pushes away at that point. Maybe it doesn't happen until the person gets married and the enmeshed relationship begins to exert a great deal of force into the marital relationship. And the husband or the wife says, no, this is inappropriate. Your family is way too involved here, and we need some space and distance. And maybe they find some healthier boundaries there. But if you listen to therapists, psychologists, social workers, if you listen to them, they'll talk about being aware of boundaries, learning how to set healthy boundaries, how to defend those boundaries once you set them. And so clinically, you are kind of stepping into, I'm going to say this term, but I'm going to say it gently, carefully, not reparent the person, but to sort of teach them what is considered a healthy relationship among family members and what is an unhealthy relationship, and to restructure their existing relationship with family members so that they can gain more autonomy, they can develop a more firm sense of self and identity and that kind of thing. So the Adelson family, there have been things that have been reported as a result of these investigations. So we do kind of know a lot about them based on investigation and recordings and things like that, where you have 3 kids in this family. You have a mom and dad and 3 children, correct? The dad is virtually non-existent. He's just sort of like this ghost of a person that somewhere he's there. They have some vague conversations about him, but he seems quite uninvolved and quite distant. Then you have the opposite extreme with the mother, and this is a really typical dynamic that you will see when there is a parent and a child who are enmeshed. Very often you see the parent, that's where the enmeshment is originating. The parent, they have a fear of being abandoned. They don't want to be alone. They're acutely aware of needing people to validate them and needing to be helpful to people, needing other people to rely on them. And when the parent, the uninvolved parent, they get focused on their career, or they start having girlfriends or boyfriends or whatever, then that fires up the whole foundation of establishing an enmeshed relationship with one's children or child. So we kind of see that a little bit. We know so much about Wendi, and we know so much about Charlie and DOnna. There is information out there about Robert. Robert's the black sheep, correct? In fact, I saw that, DB. Yeah. That is a very interesting question. I'm gonna get to that. So Robert pushed back on the status quo. Robert pushed back and said, I don't know what I'm doing, but I'm going to annul this crazy marriage I've got myself into and go back to the woman that I really love. And hopefully she'll forgive me for being a, mama's baby. and try to make a life. And since that time, they've pretty well established a life far away from Florida, far away from the Adelson clan. And, they really were spared having to be a part of this whole Adelson drama. Charlie, though, he's the guy. He's the one. He's the one that mom turned her sights on and said, this is my boy and he'll never leave me. So I want to play. Hold on. What did I do with that video? Just 1 second. I'm getting this video set up to take a listen to. Share. Okay. So let's listen to this guy talk about the moment, his earliest memory of his mom beginning her cycle of enmeshment, intentionally building up a child to take on more responsibility for her than he was prepared for.
Innocently, like happened to me. I will never forget this moment. It is might be one of the biggest moments.
Sorry about that. I didn't realize I had the overlay. Let me take the overlay off of the screen. Sorry about that. Okay. We will start over. My apologies.
Innocently, like happened to me. I will never forget this moment. It is might be one of the biggest moments etched into my memory. I remember it specifically. I was 6 years old. We were walking into Safeway. My mom and I were holding hands, and I can still feel my feet hitting the concrete or hitting the asphalt as we're just leaving the parking lot, about to get on the sidewalk and walk in the door. And my mom holding my hand, and she says, Kenny, I take you for granted. I had no idea what that meant. I just knew I felt this tremendous weight of responsibility. As I see now, and what later I became both my parents' emotional confidants. They came to me for everything. And there was my mom. That was the first memory I have of my mom enmeshing with me and creating an emotional incest situation. And I'm going to, share even deeper information of how she did that as I go through these.
Okay. So I wanted to play that because it illustrates the intentionality that the parent has in securing their own companionship. And I know you're thinking, oh, this is sick. This is gross that a parent, an adult, would have such a need to ensure companionship that to avert abandonment by their spouse, they early on create a scenario where the child is overly dependent on them. And that means, well, my wife may leave me, my husband may leave me, but my child will never leave me. So my sweet Charlie, he's not ever going to get away from me, right? So it's kind of when you really consider the intentionality that a person who has such an innate fear of abandonment, that they will disrupt healthy developmental achievement, growth, maturation of the child, that they will look at that child as a tool that is there to give them comfort or to provide, do things for them. It is very, very humbling. Okay. So in this situation, Well, interesting, Critter Watcher, that you should say that. So there is an old saying, a son is a son till he takes a wife, a daughter is a daughter for the rest of her life. Listen to this. I have had people, patients or clients before that said that little saying right there, that was a favorite saying of their mom that was used to control the daughter. That the daughter doesn't have the right to say, hey, I'm going to follow my career. I want to take a job out in LA and I love you, but this is a great opportunity for me. And the mother was in meltdown. Oh my gosh, I can't have this. I'm going to be left here alone with that bump on a log husband that I'm married to. And I won't have anybody that will come visit me. I won't have anybody that will go out to eat with me. I won't have anything. You can't leave me here by myself. And so this saying, a son is a son till he takes a wife, a daughter is a daughter for the rest of her life. This was actually cross-stitched onto a wall hanging and was given as a gift to the very daughter who did not take the big job opportunity in LA because she couldn't leave her mother to be alone, quote unquote. Even though the mother was married, had other children nearby, but the other kids were not allowing her to invade their lives. They were not allowing her to make their decisions. See? Yeah. So she carried with her this intense guilt and sense of responsibility for her mother. But at the same time, unless she was on her way out, unless she was figuring out a way to go somewhere else and get away from this family, the mother just used her. It was a really sad, it's a very difficult situation. Happy to report the young woman was able to get away and make a life for herself without being crippled by guilt. So we have to be very careful when we read about enmeshment, what it means, how it affects people, what do the families look like overall, how does the dynamic play out. We have to be really careful that we don't just look at a family and go, oh, well, if they're an enmeshed family, then everybody in the family knew what was going on. That is clinically inaccurate. One of the hallmarks, probably saddest or most tragic byproducts of these enmeshed relationships is often, and I'm not even scared to say often, I don't even feel like I need to temper this because this is pretty common. The enmeshed relationship, the parent, the parent who is creating the enmeshment, they are knowingly, like with forethought, they're aware, and they get narcissistic supply from this. They feel smug and they feel powerful and they feel, good, but they knowingly lie and manipulate. They drive information from one child to a different child. And this is where you begin to see the real golden child, scapegoat, child of rage. This is where you begin to see those real roles become gelled and really begin to exert force. So many times, one of the favorite manipulation tactics, once the kids are getting a little bit older, one of the favored relationship or control or manipulation tactics is to propagate misinformation or a lie about one of the kids, one of the siblings, and then to go after that is in place, they basically make up a lie about their own child and knowing that there will be fallout. And after they've injected that, then they go back to the child with whom they are enmeshed, the golden child, and they manipulate them differently to say, oh my gosh, I'm so glad you're not like your brother. Oh my goodness, thank you. You just don't know how appreciative I am to you that you're not like your sister. You know your sister. You know how she is. And it isolates the siblings from one another. It creates a great deal of animosity among the siblings. They begin to look at each other as enemies, people, adversaries. And there's this ongoing drive, this new established drive or instinct of, I need to get my mom's or my dad's approval. This for sure is going to get love from them. And all of the kids are operating from this point of view of, I need them to know that I'm okay. I need them to think I'm a good person. I need them to acknowledge my accomplishments. These are important things. I need them. They just don't know that about me. I'm CEO of a company. They still don't give me approval. I still get treated like the little 5-year-old dyslexic child. But if I'm CEO of a second company and CEO of a fifth company, then one day they'll get it. And the desperation is pretty difficult to overcome and reject. So eventually, you've heard me talk about scapegoats before. The scapegoated person will eventually go, this is, I give up. I'm done. This is silly. This is unhealthy. I need to do better. And they will find their independence, and then they will begin to grow and feel better and healthier than they ever have in their whole life. The sad situation is with the golden child. While in many ways they may look like they're doing better than the other siblings, they're really not. They're the alter ego to the enmeshed parent. And as long as they do as they are instructed and do as they are expected to do, then they get to live this charmed life with love showered upon them. But then the very minute that they step out of line and they do something on their own, independent of that enmeshed parent, then the enmeshed parent then breaks down and becomes very affected and needs that child to come back and support them. And, so early on, the mom or the dad is, they're saying things and they're doing things that are sending the message to the child, you are special. You are different than your siblings. I need you. You are remarkable. And I'm so eternally grateful for you. And they begin to lavish all of this attention and praise on the chosen child, right? Now, fast forward. So early on, the kids, it's like, this is great. My sister, my brother, they're all grounded, crying in their bedroom, going to bed at 7:00. And here I am up with my mom at 10, watching the newest Superman movie. And she's in there at midnight baking homemade cookies and telling me what a good boy I am. Right? And the kid, this is incorporated into their identity, and they're going, this is great. Like, I don't know what's wrong with my sister or my brother, that they don't seem to be able to behave properly, but look at me. I'm obviously playing and doing the right thing, because look at all the goodies I get. And you will see the golden child go to the other kids in the family and say, just act better, just do right, and then you won't have any trouble. But here's the problem. Have you heard the recordings with Charlie Adelson talking to his mom, and they're talking about the title on the car, right? And Charlie is overtly irritated with her. And she's almost like the wife of the cheating husband. She's trying to get his approval. She's trying to, she's willing to do whatever it takes to keep Charlie happy. But for Charlie's been activated that his mom is incapable. She's not able to function without him, and that he's the savior. He's the one. Meanwhile, back at the ranch, you got Robert marrying someone that DOnna expressly said, hey, if you marry this lady, you are disowned. You are out of the will, bucko. And he, in fact, did break up with the woman he loved and married another woman who was Jewish, which was the requirement of DOnna. But it didn't take but just weeks. And he was like, this is crazy. What am I doing? And he had that marriage annulled and then ended up with the original love of his life. And they lived happy as two clams somewhere in Connecticut or somewhere. Okay. Has very little communication with his family of origin. And don't you know, right now he's saying, thank you, my beloved wife, for waking me up to the insanity in Florida. Thank you. Thank you. Right? You know that's happening. You know it is. Charlie, he looks at what's going on with his mom and his dad, and he has to take over and do, keep his mom safe, keep her happy, do what she needs, be the savior, do whatever mom needs. And it's so complete for Charlie that he doesn't want to be married. He looks at this and he's thinking, why? Like, what's wrong with my mom and dad? Why do I have to do this? And yet it builds up a part of him. It makes him feel good that she is reliant on him and leans on him. So it's this whole sick, bad, upside down relationship. And then you have Wendi. Now, when Wendi was young, mom was still in control of things. And mom said, this is the guy you're going to marry. This is the guy you're going to date. This is the one. So she does what she's told because she doesn't know what else she's supposed to do. Doesn't have the backbone to fight against it, right? But then Dan Markle comes into the picture. And yes, they end up down in Miami to start their married lives together. But how long did it take before Dan Markle said, this is too weird for me, and I don't want your mom being in the middle of my marriage telling me what to do. We are out of here. And Wendi went. And when they first split up, Wendi didn't have to stay up there. She could have gone straight back to Miami if that's what she wanted. I don't think that's what she wanted. In fact, in some ways, I get the feeling that Wendi really wasn't really very involved with her family. But it fell on Charlie's shoulder. I think DOnna is calling Charlie. I think DOnna is, help us. We have to make this right. We need to make this right. And he plays right into it. He calls his mom, says, oh, well, guess who made her back out on buying her house? If she was all hot and heavy to do all these horrible things, Dan Markle, to get back down to Miami, then why in the world was she in the process of buying a house? Why? But Charlie wanted his kudos. He wanted his mom to go, oh, you're the savior. You're so wonderful. And that is exactly what she did. So I reject this idea that when we talk about blurred boundaries, definitely in enmeshment, the family boundaries are askew. They're all over the place. But not every relationship within that group, in that family, not every single relationship is enmeshed. In fact, if we look at Harvey had one foot out the door, I suspect. That is conjecture on my part. I think he was absorbed with his practice and working. I don't think he was overly involved with everyone in his family. I think he was good to his kids. I think he probably was a good dad and all those kind of things. But I don't think that he and DOnna really, I don't think they had managed to keep their relationship intact. So Charlie became the pseudo spouse in terms of having someone to lean on when there's a problem. Not, I'll call Harvey, but hey, let me call Charlie. And Charlie was happy to accommodate that because it built him up and made him feel like the special kid, right? I learned giving ultimatums to someone you love doesn't usually fare very well. Oh, 100%, it does not. But I think the problem exists way before that, Rojo. I think that if you find yourself in a situation where you're about to give an ultimatum, the truth is already out there on the table. You're just not wanting to see it. So better to take a few minutes to sit back and say, okay, what this need of mine to have to issue this ultimatum, what is that already telling me? Because the ultimatum is going to fall on deaf ears. 9 times out of 10, ultimatum, it's the deaf ears that got you to that point to begin with, right? Team Doocy-Doo 222, how are you doing? Funny you say that. I had to pause for my 3rd FaceTime call from my daughter today. Oh, Rojo, I'm sorry. Let's see. Okay. So I wanted to address this really. I mean, it's just sort of a fine, well, it's not even a fine point. It's just it's one step up in terms of comprehension of what this term enmeshment means and what it actually looks like in action. I think Charlie found pleasure in solving the family problems as long as they required little emotional involvement and minimal effort. Look at Charlie. Charlie, okay, how do I say this? I suspect, again, total guess on my part, just looking at enmeshed families in general, not that I have any special knowledge about the Adelsons or anything else. We heard on the recordings and we heard during testimony, he had a very judgmental and negative view of Wendi's wish for a stable suburban lifestyle, right? He even said, Dave was just kind of perfect for her, that he would provide everything she wanted, which was a house and kids. But what was he living? He wasn't living anything even remotely close to that. And I think it's very interesting that while his older brother, Robert, the love of his life, was not a Caucasian Jewish girl, which is what DOnna, was so incensed by. And isn't it interesting that Charlie kind of did what Robert did? He was really attracted to Asian women, and that was actually the thing that tore up the relationship between DOnna and Robert. Isn't that interesting? But when Charlie did exactly the same thing, it was accepted. And in fact, it seems that DOnna kind of welcomed Katie into the fold for a short time. So it's very interesting. June, I think, is much different. When you go back and look at her background, she was a cheerleader, like an NFL cheerleader. And she was definitely more of Dan's equal than I guess I should qualify that by saying more of like his social equal than what Katie and Sigfrido and Lewis, something odd about that, relationship. Anyway, so I think June was a little bit different. I mean, without a doubt, she's beautiful, but it was very interesting that that Charlie seemed to push back against his mom by being attracted to the same kind of beautiful woman that Robert was, but that actually ended the relationship between Robert and Donna. And yet Donna tolerated it from Charlie. Why? It's very strange. So I think we have to be really careful, like I said, about this whole enmeshment issue, that we do talk about enmeshed families, but when you talk about an enmeshed family, that the second level of that is the skewed relationships and codependency within the family. And the relationships within the family are not equal. They're very different, and they're very difficult, and exert a lot of forces, but those forces can be quite different. It can set people up. Growing up in an enmeshed family where this intentional manipulation is happening, where different people in the family are provided different levels of acceptance, different requirements for approval, it's very damaging, and it can create in the siblings, in the children in the family, it can create a great deal of trust issues. Whether you're the golden child or the scapegoat, or what, you're the one that's enmeshed with the parent, whatever, it doesn't matter. Trust becomes a real problem among all the members of the family. They know, even if they can't name it, they know something's not right. They know they're being manipulated. They'll walk around and think to themselves, how in the world, why do I feel like people are talking about me behind my back, but I haven't done anything? What's going on? Well, you're right. They're talking about you behind your back, because if mom or dad has an issue that they're trying to manipulate the kids to get their needs met, not to get the kids' needs met, to get the parents' needs met, they will lie to the other siblings. They will mislead the parent. They will do that in order to get that child with whom they have imprinted on, that they will, to do that, to get that kid to do what they want them to do. And so if you're the sibling that you're not the one doing the bidding of the parent, you're not the one that is, providing all the emotional support, you're sitting there going, why are they saying that about me? That never happened. Oh, well, we know how that, of course. Yeah, that never happened. But the enmeshed parent and the chosen child, they're looking at each other like, we know the truth. Don't worry, Mom. I got your back. Don't worry, Mom. I'm here to help you. And then the mom, or in this example, the mother is the enmeshed one. And then the mother sits back and feels smug. She sits quietly back and thinks, yeah, my husband may not love me. My husband may not care for me. He may not be here for me, but my Charlie will never leave me. I can always count on my Charlie. So it creates incredible distrust among family members. The other siblings will grow up with these feelings that they are unworthy of love, that they'll never measure up to old Charlie. I'm kind of using him as a, all of the siblings involved in this all grow up with very low self-esteem that can come out in any myriad of unhealthy safety behavior ways. They can create an intense fear of abandonment, but it can also create people very much like I think Charlie is, where he doesn't want close relationships with people. They're too draining. It's too hard to be responsible for another person. I got my hands full trying to deal with Donna's crap. I don't want to deal with anyone else's crap. And so they end up choosing people to date who are unavailable emotionally. Now, I ask you this question. Would Katie Magbanoa be unavailable emotionally? Yes. So, I mean, even his friend, unavailable emotionally, that's not a real friend. Go listen to his interviews. He says, "Oh my God, after the arrest, Katie Magbanou's arrest, Charlie was just no fun. Like all he wanted to talk about was his own problems. He never asked me how I am. He never wanted to know about my life. I had to cut him loose, man. I was done with him." Oh, great, Ryan. You're a great friend. Yeah, good friend you are. You take $500,000 from him and you abandon him when he's under very real threat. So Charlie knew that about Ryan. All of his relationships would be like that in theory. That having this very early attachment problem with mom, where mom is heaping all this responsibility onto his shoulders, that he's the one she can count on. He's the one that will take care of her. Look at how incompetent and stupid I am, Charlie. Without you, I'm nothing. You don't want to abandon me, do you? And you hear that in the phone call about the title to the car. You hear his irritation. When he responds to her, it's as if he's talking to a small child, right? So it's all, you can see the dynamics if you step back a little bit. It's there. And that's why I think that Charlie Adelson is the ultimate in cautionary tales against enmeshed family systems. If you find yourself in one of these systems, if you feel like every time the phone rings and you look at it and it's your mom or your dad, whichever one is the, wilting flower in distress, you see that your stomach clenches up like, okay, what am I going to have to do now? That you're just overwhelmed by a sense of guilt, and that, you're willing to get up at 3 a.m. and get in your car and drive 8 hours to go see your mom or dad or whatever. Be careful. Be very careful. Because again, I do see this thing with Charlie Adelson differently than, I guess, everyone. Well, not everyone, but I watched Behavior Panel. I watched Behavior Panel do Charlie Adelson's behavior, and I was like, okay, this is what I'm waiting on. Yes. All right. I was really glad they did it. Even they had to really jump through hoops to try to say, oh yeah, he's guilty, but he's very good at what he does. It's so subtle you almost wouldn't notice it. I don't know how he could get away with that. And I'm just looking at them going, is anyone going to stop and say the obvious? Does anyone have the courage to say, whoa, he looks guilty. He acted in ways that looked guilty, but he sure does seem like he might be telling the truth. And this is crazy. I mean, just saying it doesn't make it so. Just saying he appears to be truthful on the stand, that doesn't mean he is truthful, but at least it's authentic. You can watch anyone. Tim Jansen, the attorney, he starts out motivated, empowered, like you can see he's really excited to watch, Kappelman talk about or cross-examine Charlie. And he's like, oh, he'll never be able to stand up to Georgia, and he'll never be able to get through this, and he'll never be able to get through that. But as it proceeded, you could just see more and more. Tim Jansen was kind of going, what the hell is this? Like, what is going on with this guy? Is this even possible? Right? You could just see him change. And then ultimately, when it was all said and done and everybody was sitting down there going, well, that didn't quite turn out the way we thought it was going to turn out, did it? There was no, big moment or gotcha or any of that. But then at that point, then Tim Jansen resets and he says, oh, well, he's a psychopath. Charlie is a sociopath, and that is why he was able to stand up against Georgia Cappleman's cross-ex. No, he's not a psychopath. A psychopath doesn't almost cry at the thought of their nephews and their dead dad. A psychopath can't do that. He can't control his smiling in the courtroom when he's watching June, a woman that he seems to actually still love, and he finds her cute and delightful, and he can't control it. It's natural. It just comes out. He almost demonstrated like a bit of not camaraderie. I don't know what to call it. But when Georgia Cappleman says that about the television, he said a television. He didn't know what she was talking about, getting money for a television. He was like, a television. And then you see the light go off in his brain. You see his eyes kind of light up. And he's like, oh my God. Oh my God. He's like, I promise you are wrong. There is nothing television. You have made that like code talk. It's not real. It was so real. Like it was, I don't know how you fake that. Even for a sociopath, a Hollywood actor, I don't know how you do that. So I don't know how his explanation that he gave for that he was speaking in hypotheticals, saying that if you're going to kill one, if you're going to go against Sigfredo or something, you better kill him because he's going to come back and really hurt you. Something like that. I'd have to go back and listen to it again. It was so strange to listen to him on the stand explain that, because that's actually what I thought when I heard the recording. I thought, he's not being threatening to kill anyone. He's just talking like, instead of saying him and Sigfredo, if he would have said what would have been proper syntax to say, if one were to blah, 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 then one would want to blah, blah, blah. It was a hypothetical that he was referring to. And to me, it just sounded like it was all to try to build, like to try to relieve Katie Magbanua of the fears that she was having. And then he gets on the stand and he says exactly that. So it's very strange for me. I would bet Ryan knows a lot more than he is saying about this crime. If I were investigators, I would question him over and over just to try to find the truth. That is a very good point. Very good point. I think he's probably, well, birds of a feather flock together, right? So it would be hard for, I mean, Ryan's pretty buffed up. Maybe he's one of those that was getting some testosterone, steroids, maybe that is. But anyway, so we all felt it. We all watched the testimony and the cross-ex. We all saw that. Even people that were firmly 100% in the guilty corner, even when they watched it, they knew, they were like, wow, that did not go at all like we thought. So I do know why people are uncomfortable to, talk, to say it, to acknowledge it. I do understand that. And it hasn't been a lot of fun to be me for this particular case. But I also, how is it helpful to just go, oh, okay. I mean, there's got to be a reason why, it's got to be a reason why I experienced this so dramatically different, right? There's got to be an explanation for it. So that's why I'm watching everything. Like I'm really fighting really hard to see this from a different perspective. It also is important to note, I said, DOnna, you got a problem, lady. In fact, I was a bit taken back once I heard the recordings, and everything. I thought, I wonder why they didn't get DOnna first. I wonder why it didn't go from Katie to DOnna, just using the actual evidence, right? The recordings. Because on the recordings, DOnna looks real bad. Charlie just looks clueless. He just looks like he doesn't know what's going on. So, so I did have that wonder. I definitely think she definitely knew what was going on. And I had this, I had this feeling of, why don't we think that DOnna and Katie Magbanoa did this? I mean, DOnna's the one writing the checks to Katie. DOnna's got contact with Katie. Why wasn't it that? What? So I had another thought, I guess last night, I think. I was watching something, I don't remember what it was, and there was a picture. It was a picture of just Katie Magbanoa and Wendi at the beach. There's another picture where it's three of them. It's Katie and Wendi, and there's another girl on the other side of Wendi. But there is a picture where it's just Katie and Wendi. It's more I think they're on their knees, and it's a photo of them like from their knees up. They're at the beach. And I saw that and I thought, well, wait a minute. Why is maybe it was Wendi and Katie that got this whole ball rolling? But then I pulled back away from that pretty fast. I said, no, because there's a lot of other things that doesn't work out with. To me, it looks like DOnna and Katie is what it looks like to me. And a lot of people will say, well, there's no way that Wendi didn't know what was going on. And there's no way that Charlie didn't know what was going on. Oh, yes. If you talk to people that specialize in enmeshment and attachment disorders, no, there's a great deal of positioning and gaslighting, and it is highly possible, probably likely, that DOnna would do something and intentionally say, we can't tell X, Y, or Z. And we did, in fact, hear people say, don't tell your father, or I'm so glad we didn't tell dad. There are those, right? There definitely are those moments on the recordings. I'm watching Katie Magbanoa not be able to answer the prosecution's questions in the second proffer, not being able to answer the questions about, well, when did Charlie do this? When did Charlie do that? What did he do? She didn't know. She kept saying, Charlie never said that. That never happened. I don't know. That's where it's confusing. He didn't say that. And this went on for an hour or so. And then finally, the prosecution all but told Katie exactly what they wanted her to say. Oh, I don't know. I guess he gave me a little bit, probably like more than 50, less than 200, something like that. And the prosecution said, oh, okay, well, I'll just put less than 500. What? Hold on. A couple $100? Yes, that is factually correct to say less than 500. But when you say less than 500, that gives you the impression that it was kind of within the 400 range, right? Well, if somebody only got $50, $100, $200, you're pretty damn far off by saying less than 500, but it makes it sound much worse, doesn't it? So I know this is strange, but when I look at all of these, the totality of these recordings and interviews and testimony, I feel very uncomfortable that I think I have to say this too. Yes, Charlie knew at some point that Dan Markle was killed and died because of Wendi. I believe that. No doubt about that. I believe that. But that he was the mastermind, that he told Katie what to do, and Katie was just this hapless, unintelligent person that was just doing what she was told to do, and that he was working in concert with Sigfrido, the man who wanted to kill him. That is not real. I feel that in my bones. That is not real. So does it make any difference? Does it make any difference in terms of murder, conspiracy to commit murder, or accessory after the fact, right? Perhaps he said, Mom, leave me alone. I don't care what you're doing. I don't want to hear any more about Wendi. I don't care about her suburban nightmare. Just leave me alone. And she's like, but we got to do something. We got to help her. He's abusive. Okay, well, talk to Katie. She probably knows somebody. And then because he's self-absorbed and he's living the life he wants to live, then he goes on about his business, and it's Mom and Katie then that move it up a level. So it doesn't change the outcome, right? He still was a horrible person. He still did it. He still, but it also helps me account for these things that really scare me and really bother me. It scares me to imagine an innocent person going to prison. That is a terrifying thought to me. And so you think to yourself, look, if your witness is sitting there telling you, no, your defendant never said that. Your defendant never said that. Your defendant never said that. As a prosecutor, aren't you going to go, okay, maybe I got this wrong. Maybe I need to go back to the drawing board. And that's not what we really saw. So it scares me to think that we could get so focused on the prosecution of one person that we develop tunnel vision and run the real risk of putting somebody in prison that maybe didn't do what we think. I think it's clear DOnna definitely knew. Definitely. And if Wendi did know at a time, then she needs an Academy Award for her shock and awe and grief that was demonstrated in the police station. I mean, she turned on the waterworks like crazy. So, yeah. Of course, DOnna says, I've seen you in action, Wendi. so there's that. All right. As for Harvey, the question was, so what's going through Harvey's mind now? Where's Harvey? What's he doing? I think Harvey's doing what he's always done. I think he's just shaking his head going, I have a bunch of idiots for a family. I think that's what's in his head. I think he's mad because his life has been disrupted. And I think he's trying to figure out a way to extricate himself from all the nonsense and move on. We don't know. Maybe he's got a really great relationship with his grandsons. That would probably be realistic to believe. So maybe he's just trying to figure out how to support them as all this, his kingdom crumbles down around him. I don't know, but I do definitely think emotionally he was kind of uninvolved and had already checked out of the relationship, which is what laid the groundwork for DOnna to become enmeshed with Charlie. All right. I think Charlie gave DOnna the info and DOnna did all the setting up. I agree. It was done behind his back. I don't think any of this would have happened. The father of Wendi's boys getting killed without Wendi's blessing. Well, I can tell you narcissistic moms who are used to getting their way, who belittle their daughter or their child, I think she definitely would have done it and then insulated Wendi from the facts. I can see that. I can definitely see that. All right. So the goal of this video was to address this problem of what is a narcissistic, I'm not narcissistic, I'm sorry, enmeshed family, And does the description characterize every single relationship within the family? And the answer to that is no. You do have an enmeshed family system, but it is the individual relationships within that system that will show the enmeshed relationship between the parent who is experiencing anxious attachment or anxious avoidant attachment, and then imprints on one of the kids that she then intentionally, with purpose, builds that kid up to believe he's special and he's different, basically creates another narcissist, and builds that kid up to feel special, so that when that kid then becomes the adult, now the enmeshed parent can have this pseudo marriage with the child, right? It's emotional incest. The parent is relying on the child as if the child were the spouse. All right. I have to end this here. You guys are awesome. Thank you so much for listening to me. And I know I see this a little different than most of the big channels, and that's okay. At least it gives you something to think about, right? Okay. Y'all have a great afternoon.